Dear students, you are welcome in this class. And just now you have seen the nursery, how nursery methods of preparing rice nursery. Now you have prepared the nursery and then how to transplant it. So besides transplanting, there may be some other methods of establishment. So one method is transplanting, other is direct seeding. So for transplanting, you have seen the methods for raising the seedling. Now you will see how rice crop is established in the main field. So discuss the issues related to transplanting and advantages and constraints of transplanting. Transplanting can be of two types. One is manual, other is by machine or mechanical transplanting. And then you go for direct seeding. So there are only two methods of rice crop establishment. One is transplanting and other is direct seeding. In direct seeding, you can have several versions. Several versions are available for direct seeding. Direct seeding can be done in puddled field. Direct seeding can be done in unpuddled field. It can be done in line. It can be done by broadcast method. It can be done under dry condition. It can be done under wet conditions. So many modifications and versions of direct seeding are there. It can be done on flat land. It can be done on raised beds. So that is known as bed planting. On beds, it can be done in narrow beds and broad beds. So there are so many modifications of direct seeding. In some cases, it is also known as direct drilling, direct broadcast, direct drilling, direct sowing, or direct seeding. And DSR is a common term, direct seeded rice. And one term is aerobic rice. So in subsequent lecture, I will discuss the difference in direct seeded rice and your aerobic rice. So now I must acknowledge the help and material received from Dr. Balasubramaniam. And for your information, he was the first in International Rice Research Institute to start leaf color chart in 1990s, not now, 30 or maybe more than 30 years before, or about 30 years before he started leaf color chart. So overall goal of what is the goal or main aim of the crop establishment in rice? To secure a uniform plant population that can produce high yield. You want high yield, and definitely plant population has a role to play the high yield. So you want uniform population and ideal population. So how to get it? That should be the objective of the crop establishment in rice. So for higher yields, now how this transplanting or direct seeding or seed rate can be useful. So we must target the panicles number. In one of the lectures, you have seen the importance of panicle number or heads per unit area. So you need to have optimum number of panicles to get the maximum yields, highest yield. So number of panicles per unit area is the principal yield determining factor. The most important yield determining factor is the panicle number. Similarly, in other cereal crops also, like in wheat, it is the panicle or spike. In maize, cob, ear, and so on. Optimum number for panicle is for wet season. Now you can correct myself or yourself also. During wet season, means rainy season, it is 350 to 400 panicles per meter square is the ideal. But in dry season, it is 450 to 600 panicles per meter square. So this difference is mainly because of the growth of the crop. During wet season, growth of the crop is more luxurious, higher vegetative growth than in dry season. So therefore, panicle size is also small in dry season compared to wet season. So generally speaking, in dry season, you need more population. In wet season, you need less population. This is very general fundamental principle in agronomy. You see, if you grow a summer crop, some pulses can be grown in Kharif season and in summer season. If you grow them in summer season, you can put less seed rate or more seed rate. Same pulse, if you grow in, suppose it is mung bean or oat bean. You can take it in Kharif as well as in Jazz season or in summer season. So what would be the seed rate under two conditions? Under one condition, for this Kharif season or wet season, you will need hardly 10 to 12 kg seed. But if you are planting the same crop in summer, then it will be about 20 to 25 kg. Why? Because in summer we reduce the spacing also. We reduce the spacing also because we expect less luxurious growth in summer months because of high temperature and also scarcity of water. But in Kharif season, humidity is high, so you also keep wider spacing and therefore less seed rate. You expect more growth during wet season, therefore you need less seed and wider spacing. So here in dry season, spacing can also be reduced. So you need more number of panicles per meter square. Then factors affecting number of panicles, tilling capacity of the variety. It is important that how much tilling happens in a particular variety. Initial plant population based on crop establishment method and available nitrogen at tilling. Nitrogen is just like kind of injection for all cereal crops. All cereal crops, it is just like injection to induce tilling. If there is less tilling in any cereal crop, generally, you can just suggest urea or nitrogen. Immediately, plant will start tilling. So for tilling in cereal crops, nitrogen is the most important nutrients. And then methods of rice crop establishment, I told you two methods are there. One is transplanting, other is direct seeding. In transplanting, you can go for manual or mechanical transplanting. And this transplanting can be done by, if you grow rice by conventional method is very simple. You just prepare your field by puddling, level it, and then transplant it by either by man or by machine. And then in ICM, integrated crop management, you need to follow certain specific or good agricultural practices in ICM. You need to have mat nursery, modified mat nursery, and changes in rice production technology under ICM. So you also need this transplanting is also done in ICM. Third one is SRI. In SRI also you go for transplanting. So these are the methods of establishment, transplanting and direct seeding. In transplanting, you have different methods, conventional method or traditional method, ICM or SRI. Next is your direct seeding, sorry. Direct seeding can be done under two conditions. Under dry seeding, dry conditions means your soil is dry. Wet condition, wet seeding, your soil is wet. Soil is having saturated conditions or soil is having some flooded water. In dry seeding, there can be many options. Under dry conditions, you can go for broadcasting. You can go for drilling. Dibbler can be used. Drum seeding can be done in dry seeding. Aerobic and upland rice can be grown in broadcast or drilling method. In flatlands, or drilling can be done in raised bed. Zero-till drilling is also your direct seeding. So wherever you directly sow the seed into the soil or onto the soil, that is your direct seeding under dry conditions. In wet seeding, with or without puddling, you can go for puddling and then you seed in rows or you broadcast it. You can do in rows by drum seeder or some other implements. Broadcast is line seeding by drum seeder or other machines. So you can see there are many variants of crop establishment in rice, depending upon the water availability, whether it is wet condition or dry condition, depending upon the method, whether you want transplanting or direct seeding, and depending upon your water method, machine. If machine is there, you can go for transplanting machine is there, direct seeding machine is there. So many variants are there for establishing crop. But broadly, you can say transplanting and direct seeding are the methods of rice crop establishment. So this is transplanting. Most common method in small farms of Asia is transplanting. Roughly 70, or you can say two-third rice, 68 to 70% rice in Asia is transplanted rice. So majority is transplanting. However, up to 30% area is direct seeded. I will give you this data also, how much is transplanted, how much is direct seeded. So what are the critical factors in transplanting? First is that you must have a good nursery, good seedling, proper nursery management, careful handling of young seedling. You should not, your seedling should not dry. They should remain turgid and wet and fresh. Shallow transplanting just at 2 to 3 centimeter depth. Transplanting should never be done deep. If you go for deep transplanting, the trilling will be affected. If you remember, internodes and node length was very small on the lower nodes where trilling occurs. So shallow transplanting is suggested for good trilling, and optimum plant population will vary with the variety, with the soil fertility, and so many factors. You cannot generalize rice spacing. For example, for basmati rice, it is 20 by 10 centimeter. For hybrids or high-yielding variety, it can be 20 by 15 or 20 by 20. In SRI, system of rice intensification, you can have 25 by 25, square planting. So overall, if somebody asks you, so you can say in early varieties or varieties where growth is low, you can have 20 by 10 centimeter spacing. In high-yielding varieties, you can have 20 by 15 centimeter. In hybrids also, you can have 20 by 15 centimeter of spacing. Optimum number of seedling is 2 to 3 if you are going for conventional method of transplanting. So 2 to 3 seedlings per hill are necessary, because if you plant only one seedling, then if it dies, then the growth and yield of the crop will be affected. But if you have 2 to 3 seedlings, then you will get better results, better trilling, better panicles. If you have 4, 5, 6, or 7, then also your total plants or tillers per unit area will decline. So therefore, ideally 2 to 3 seedlings per hill are optimum. So you can see modified mat nursery seedling, young seedlings, you can see they are healthy seedlings, and they are approximately 16 to 18 centimeter tall. These are very general values. They will vary with the varieties also. Some varieties are tall, some varieties are small. So for example, some children, they grow fast in the beginning, and some children grow slow. So height of them will be different, but they may be of the same age. Seedling may be of the same age, but if varieties are different, then you can have different heights. So it is just mean value, 16 to 80 centimeter tall, having 4 leaves and no tillers, then it is a seedling. Now you see, careful handling is also necessary. They should not be damaged. Their roots should not be damaged, and they should not be exposed to the sun, so that if they are exposed to the sun, then they can lose water by transpiration, and still they are not getting water through the roots. So therefore, damage to seedling can happen. Careful handling is necessary, and square planting is definitely better, but it is not possible. In conventional methods, we go for rectangular transplanting. This square planting is possible in case of very wider spacings, or in case of SRI. Mechanical weeding or soil disturbance. So it is suggested to go for mechanical weeding by cono-weeder in transplanted crop. It is possible only in transplanted crop. It is not possible in direct seeded crop. So cono-weeder is a machine which is run by human being, by labor, or you can find some machines, some power operated weeders also available for rice. So by cono-weeder or rotary weeder, weeding can be done after 20 to 25 days of transplanting. So it has advantage of incorporating weeds at less than 4 leaf stage, and better root and shoot growth, and high tilling. So these are the advantage of cono-weeding. So it can partly aerate the soil also. Some oxygen can reach the roots of the crop. And ICM crop at heading stage picture. And manual transplanting. As I told you, there can be 2 methods. One is manual method of transplanting, and other is machine method or mechanical method. So manual transplanting has some advantages over direct seeding, over direct seeding. The first advantage is that it gives you good head start for plant growth over the weeds. By the time weeds germinate and come out, the crop will close its canopy, or crop will grow faster. It can compete much better than the weeds. Shorter duration in main field because it has already passed 25 days. The age or the duration of the crop will not be affected by nursery. Whether same variety, if you go for transplanting or you go for direct seeding, the duration will be same. Hardly 4 or 5 days duration will be there in maturity. If you go for direct seeding, suppose one crop mature in 125 days. And if you go for transplanting, this crop will mature in 130 days. So hardly 4 or 5 days difference will be there. In direct seeding, crop matures 4 or 5 days early. So there is not much difference. And this difference happens mainly because of transplanting shock. When you transplant the crop, it takes 4 or 5 days time for the seedling to establish and to start functioning at its own, to produce leaves, to produce roots. It takes 6 days time to establish the roots of the seedling. So therefore, this is known as transplanting shock. So because of that, it may have just 4 or 5 days extra time than the direct seeded condition. So normally the variety's duration will not be affected by planting method. Hardly 4 or 5 days variation can be there. Easy to maintain uniform plant spacing because here you have control where you can transplant. So it is much easier to maintain the uniformity in plant population. So this is the advantage of transplanting. In manual transplanting, but it has got some constraints also. Drudgery, it is very hard work. It takes a toll to the labor person who is bending the back. So back problem can come. That is why mostly young or youth are employed in the transplanting job. It is very tedious and labor intensive, need 30 person day per hectare. So friends, PD means person per day. It is not good to call man days because women will get angry and some gender issues will come into picture. So therefore now, instead of man days, people write it person day, P day, person day. Person day per hectare means laborers, or if I am labor, you can call me labor. So 30 laborers per hectare. Difficult to find labor to plant on time. That is also a constraint. You know, many farmers in Punjab, Haryana, and some other parts of the country are switching over to direct seeding, mainly because of shortage of labor. Maximum number of laborers are employed in transplanting job in rice. This is the operation. And similar number of laborers are required in harvesting and threshing also. So some difficulties in finding the labor also. So it is a constraint in transplanting. Poor plant population due to contract transplanting on area basis. This is also important. If you are giving transplanting job to a contractor, then they will be in hurry and they may not keep uniformity in plant population. So that is another issue. I want to admit someone, but if you have control, you can admit the person who want to get admitted. Then in manual transplanting, sometimes, as just I told you, that there can be some spaces unfilled. At certain hills, there may not be any plant. So replanting or gap filling is necessary. And sometimes seedlings will die. Suddenly, due to high temperature, sun scalding can also happen in paddy fields, or there may be some other issues because of which seedling can die due to some insect pest also, some disease also, or some roots can be very shallow, and when you apply water, they can get uprooted by rainfall also. So you need to fill the gap. Filling the gap is also necessary. If you do not fill the gap, then your growth and yield will be affected. You will get less yield. So after 1 week of transplanting, farmer should walk around the field and find the blank spaces, and those blank spaces should be filled by fresh seedlings. So gap filling is also important. It is done in many crops. In sugarcane also, after harvesting first crop, you go for gap filling. Now, this is transplanter, manual transplanter. You can see by machine, you can transplant the rice. This is Chinese planter. You can see Japanese planter is more advanced version. And you can see a variety of transplanters are available. Very shallow water, thin water. When you go for machine transplanting, you should keep very thin layer of water on the field. So you can see it is machine transplanted rice. And you can see the trays, the mats are kept on the tray, on the back side of the machine, and automatically it will plant. It has got some fingers, some mechanism to transplant rice. And you can see, of course, you can see the row is not very straight. So this person is not expert in this, but anyhow, you can see the transplanted crop of rice by machine. You can see close view of this paddy transplanter. Transplanted done by paddy transplanter. You can see rows are not very straight, and this is not the problem of the machine. This is problem of the person who is handling it. But if you get some experienced person, you will get very straight lines in transplanted crop. And now it is not new. In Pondicherry, in Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Punjab, and many other places, now farmers are using machines for transplanting rice. Now, we were discussing about seedling broadcasting or parachute transplanting or planting methods. Now you can see these are the seedling balls, seedling with root balls. So you can see they can be thrown up by manual method. So this is the way. This is picture from Thailand. You can see your field is ready. It is in muddy field. And you can see there is very little water is standing. So just 1 centimeter, very thin layer of water is there, or it is full of mud. You can say very little water is there on the surface. And then he is throwing the seedlings. He will walk around the field. He will throw the seedling, and he will try to distribute these seedlings by his experience by uniformly. So since he's throwing the seedling, they will fall on the soil, and that fall is your parachute. So parachute planting or transplant. So you can see this machine is also available for uniform distribution of these seedlings. So seedling broadcasting by machine can also be accompanied. So you can see this picture I took myself in this case, parachute transplanting, it was thrown. So you can see spacing is not very uniform. It is haphazard, but in the end, all the gaps will be filled. All these gaps will be filled because it is a very common practice in areas where you get less labors. In Thailand, in Vietnam, in some other countries, this practice is there, the seedling transplanting, this techniques, broadcasting. So you can see very close up view. So these roots are very near to the surface. Now this will definitely tiller well, and the roots can be settled near the surface of the soil, and so that they can also get some oxygen, dissolved oxygen, etc. So it is as good as your manual transplanting or mechanical transplanting. So now you can see the crop. It is established and it will grow into a good crop. So this is, you can see I taken this picture from the farmer's field. I've seen it. And you can see this picture, the trays, the bubble trays. Somebody was asking about bubble trays. So you can see the seedlings are removed in 2-3 bubbles. Seedlings have been removed. And you can see how it is growing. Now you can easily take them out and they are ready for transplanting. So these are the trays you can see kept with seedlings. So it has got some advantages also. So low seed rate in this case, just 15 to 20 kg seed rate is enough. Less labor is required. That is important. Why this seedling broadcast? Because compared to transplanting, if you remember, 30% day were required. So for transplanting by manual method, in conventional, you need to have more than 30 to 35 labors. But here only 16 are enough. No bud damage in the nursery and main field. Early crop maturity by 7 to 8 days. It has been reported by people. Water saving, 10 irrigation for seedling broadcast and 12 for transplanted rice. So some water saving has been reported. Less use of agrochemical as they can be applied applied directly to the. So there are some advantage here and there over the puddle transplanted, manually transplanted. It has got some limitations also. As a student, we need to know constraints. Farmers have to buy plastic tray. It is a limitation. Heavy rainfall just after seedling broadcast may disturb the distribution of broadcast seedling. They will be washed down. If the soil is washed, then the seedlings will be floating on the water. So that way your transplanting may not be successful. So immediately after transplanting, there should not be any rain. If rain is there, there should be very light rain. If rain is excess rain, then it can wash away your seedlings. So that is a limitation. So you can see some data. Just I want to show how much successful seedling broadcast or parachute planting is. So you can see two are compared in two different seasons. One season is wet season and dry season, then you got mean values. So manual transplanting, and see the last column, mean. The yields are same in manual transplanting or seedling broadcast, 5.87 and 5.67. So yields are same. So you can see that this method is as good as your manual transplanting. And you can see the difference in two seasons. In wet season also, they got similar yield. And in dry season also, they got similar yields. So overall, there is not much difference in yields in two methods. And you can see the in Sri Lanka, this was done in Sri Lanka, I think, Sri Lanka. So they have got two sites, Veera Pidasa and Jayantipura. And then average of two methods, SB seedling broadcast transplanting. And then you can see number of hills. Number of hills in seedling broadcast were less, just 38 per meter square. But in TP, it was 42 in one location. And go to another location where number of hills per meter square were more in SB than in transplanted. So overall, you can see the number of hills per meter square was almost same, 44 and 41. Similarly, number of panicles, 356 in seedling broadcast and 298 in transplanted. And finally, you see the grain yield. So grain yield was slightly better in seedling broadcast and then the transplanted. So overall, you can see it was as successful as your transplanted. So we can say that yields are similar in transplanted, manually transplanted rice and seedling broadcast. So you can't say it is a bad method, but additional advantage is that you can save some labors. So that is why it is, and you will not have drudgery on the back of the labors. You need to just throw the seedlings while standing on the boundary of the field. Now see, this is some more analysis, economic analysis. You can see labor need and machine costs. So C method means crop establishment method, then nursery type, and labor need of nursery, raising and planting, and total labor requirement. And last column, you have machine cost. So when you go for manual transplanting, there is no need to have any machine cost. So first is your wet or dry bed. So when you go for wet or dry bed nursery preparation, you need 12 labors. Total number of labor is 12. However, for planting, you may require 25 to 30 or more than 30 was also there. It is variable, but on an average, you can say 25 to 30 labors are required, person per day, person total. And if you make the total of nursery and planting, it is 37 to 42. For depot method, you need just 6 people for nursery raising for 1 hectare area. Then planting is same. It will require same number of labors, and then total is 31 to 36. Similarly, modified mat nursery, 8 for nursery, 25 to 30 for transplanting, and total is 33 to 38. So here you can see modified mat nursery and also your wet or dry bed nursery. The number of labor is larger than the depot nursery. Then you see in bubble tray nursery, the labor requirement is very low. 8 for nursery, 8 for planting. That is why in Thailand and many countries, they are going for seedling broadcasts. 8 plus 8, just 16 labors are required. Yield is same. So why shouldn't we go for seedling broadcast. Then see the machine transplanted by machine. Number of labors. If it is manual machine, then you need, for nursery preparation, you need 6 labors for all. In the transplanting for machine for depot seedlings. And if you go planting, in planting, you need, if your transplanter is manual, you need 6 to 7. If Chinese, 2 to 3. If Japanese, 1. So you can see requirement for labor is reduced by machine. So this is interesting, but some cost is there. So cost for labor is also there. So overall, we have done some economics, and this machine transplanting is really cheaper in long run than the manual transplanting. So that is why now days have come that people are switching over to machine transplanting. So if we sum up, then transplanting by manual and mechanical methods is done, and direct seeding can be done under different conditions. So direct seeding can be done by broadcast method, by drilling, by dibbler, by drum seeding. So these are the method of sowing actually. Method of sowing under direct seeding. In the upland condition, it is always dry direct seeding by broadcasting method. Mostly it is broadcasting. In rain-fed lowlands, you can go for wet and dry direct seeding. Both options are available for rain-fed lowland. And this wet and dry seeding can be accomplished by broadcast or drilling. I think you got the difference in the field conditions and the sowing methods. So wet and dry direct seeding is a condition of the field. And then direct seeding by broadcast or drilling is a method of sowing. Under irrigated lowlands, you can go for dry direct seeding or drilling. Aerobic rice, DSR without tillage is also possible. Direct seeding under zero tillage conditions. And DSR on beds, direct seeding of rice on beds is also possible. And in deep water rice, you go for dry and wet direct seeding. So many direct seeding options are there. So you don't get much confused. Just remember some fundamentals that if you are putting seed directly into the soil without transplanting, then it is direct seeding. It can be done under wet condition or dry condition. Under both the condition, it can be drilled. In wet condition, drilling is not possible. But under other condition, drilling is possible. And under all condition of direct seeding, this broadcast is also possible. So why we require direct seeding of rice over transplanting? To reduce the labor input. Just you have seen the drudgery and number of labors to tackle labor shortage, to establish crops in time, to maintain optimum plant population. You need not to bother about the raising the nursery. And the main driver for direct seeding is, you should remember, the shortage of water. Now these days people are talking about water crisis, climate change. Because of that, people want direct seeding. Second driver is your labor shortage. Third driver is your timely unavailability of the labors, timely availability of the labor. Labors are not available in time. And third one is that now chemical or herbicides are available that can kill the weeds, other weed under direct seeding conditions. So that is also facilitating the acceptance of direct seeding, and it is saving the water. It is saving the water. So availability of short duration rice varieties are also there that can be grown under direct seeding. Herbicides are available, and faster and easier crop establishment under direct seeding. So these are the drivers for direct seeding. Water shortage, early maturing or quick growing varieties are there. Herbicides are available, and your labor problems. So all these problems can be sorted out if one goes for direct seeding. So you can see direct seeding requirements. What are the requirements? Good land preparation and leveling is must. Furrows to drain water, saturated soil, wet dry seeding. Under wet drying seeding, you need saturated soil, and that can be achieved by puddling. And